What's up, y'all? Welcome to the December 2021 Tidal Gardens YouTube live show. How's everybody doing? Hopefully you guys are all having a good weekend so far. It has been a little bit, huh? We haven't had a live show for, I think this is like 3 months almost, because we didn't have one in November. That was super busy with all the different sales and promotions that we were doing here. And yeah, there's no way to even pull Becca away from her shooting duties to shoot this particular live show. And the previous month, October, I was traveling 3 of the 4 weekends. That didn't exactly leave a lot of opportunities to do one of these shows. So we pick it back up in December. So welcome, you guys. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully the audio and all that looks and sounds good. Trying to enjoy like a somewhat quiet weekend here. It's not super duper quiet because yeah, the weather. There's like some kind of tropical storm or some kind of weather warning going on here. It's been really, really, really wet and rainy, like torrential downpour, wet and rainy. So we were getting notifications from our ISP that it's like, just so you know, there's a really good chance that you might lose internet. I'm like, oh, good. Glad I didn't need the internet for anything, right? So it looks like from the look of chat that notifications did go out. That's a pleasant surprise every now and again. And you know what's crazy? It's been seriously torrential downpouring all morning, all last night, and the sun just peeked out. It's like the weather here is so crazy. And I'm like looking out my window here, and I can just see like lakes of water that formed because of all the precipitation that we got. Yeah, ooh, Illinois had a tornado, took out Amazon. I had heard something like that something crazy like that happened. Yeah, luckily we haven't been completely smashed, but there's a lot of rain. And this is that sort of thing where I wish that we had like a bigger rainwater collection capacity than we currently do, because our current capacity is 10,000 gallons. And it's actually spless than that because there's an air gap up top, blah, 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 right? But the rain here is splotchy, so it's not like you just get this even keel rain all year round. It's like you get patches of super, super heavy rain. So if you collect all that and then all the excess rain that you get that day, it all just gets wasted. And so over like the course of the year, yeah, you average X number of gallons per year, but really it comes in like smaller chunks, or I shouldn't say smaller chunks. It comes in like big chunks all at once, a few times a year. So that's kind of why I want to like beef up our capacity to collect rainwater, because when it's super rainy like this is when you want to fill up everything, and then you just kind of carry it forward for a few months at a time. All right, so if you guys follow us on Instagram, yesterday we made a post that we got a couple of new aquariums. We're starting a new aquarium build here that is solely focused on doing sales, doing shipping and stuff like that. So it's actually not in any way, shape, or form consumer facing. To the point that like the overflow boxes point into the main space. So when you walk right in, you just see the overflow box side of the aquariums, not like the nice pretty peninsula side. Because the nice pretty peninsula side, that faces the packing area where all the real activity happens. Anyway, there's going to be 5 total aquariums there, and they each are going to be 500 gallons. So that's a total system volume of just those aquariums. It's about 2,500 gallons. And then you add the sump onto that, which is in the ballpark of another 500 gallons. So yeah, so and I don't really count like the thickness of the glass and all that in the calculation. So let's just say after it's all said and done, it's about 2,500 gallons. And it's, yeah, like I said, it is mainly designed to be shipping and like just to be able to set up sales and stuff, because you need to kind of allocate a lot of room for that type of thing. But yeah, we got those tanks from Exotic Aquariums down in Miami. If you guys remember, like years ago, Rico from Rico's Aquariums, he got a tank from them, and it was kind of an adventure getting it downstairs and installed. This install was much, much easier. Just get it off the truck, roll it in, roll it onto our other rolling stands, and then roll them into place. We were done in an hour. The unfortunate thing is we couldn't get all 5 aquariums. We were only able to get 2 of the 5, and then the remaining 3 are going to be coming in a little bit later. So that's the plan. We're looking at maybe the first week of January. So not even that far, maybe like 3 weeks from now, we'll be getting those guys. Okay, so we got about 3 minutes. So let me quickly read off the Patreon and YouTube membership guys. So thank you. This is for the Patreon side. Thank you very much, Bill Russell, Brandy Camp, Christopher Frame, Harkins Aquatics, Jeremy Altman, Kent Scipione. Sorry, I'm butchering everyone's name. Elaine Martinassi. These are some new names. I'm not used to pronouncing them. Alan Jackson, Chuck Admired, Don Bowman, Ernie Wallace, Genro, Greg Zimmerman, Keith Singer, Kyle Jameson, Lisa Clow, Lori Ward, Puddle Aquatics, Rebecca Hall, Reef Infidel, Santa Nomine, Scotty D, Skylar Korn, Sue Hemmons, The Classroom Reef, Thomas Tarrant, Tim Garner, Trevor Joseph Overbeck. And is there anybody else? Nope, I think we're good on that front. And then on the YouTube side, thank you very much to Joseph Posada, Keith Holland, Jacob Rikerson, Sarah Edwards, Justin Harden, Jeremy Place, 328 Reef, and 2 Please Coral Reefs. Thank you guys so much. All right. I need to turn on my air conditioning because it's actually suddenly getting hot in here. One sec. Don't ask me how, in mid-December, during a storm, why it's hot enough in the studio where I would need air conditioning. I mean, I guess I could also just open a window, but it's, I mean, I don't want to be too windy sounding in here. Brandy Camp, be the fountain, not a drain. Yeah, it's like I remember meeting Brandy in Chicago, and she was like, I never ever actually watch your live streams. I know that my name is probably being spoken, but there you go. There you go. All right, 1 minute before we start the festivities. I had a little bit of an Apple adventure, y'all. So you guys know that I use a lot of Apple products, and I am like in various stages of divorce with Apple at any given time. But they came out with like this new really powerful chipset. They kind of went away from Intel. They're doing their own thing, and it's supposed to be like this super powerful laptop. So I have an older, very expensive professional desktop here, and this laptop is supposed to be several times more powerful. And that really matters because when I do like my video editing and stuff, it takes a lot of processing power. So when I hit the export button on my live show that we're about to see in a sec, it usually takes about 5 hours. And so I'm like, well, if it can cut down my 5-hour render time down to like 2 hours, that'd be like really cool, right? So I was editing all this video on my laptop, and then I just go to hit the button, and lo and behold, I was getting like, oops, sorry about that. Here we go. I was getting something like 1% completed every 40 minutes. So if you do some quick math on that, that sounds like it's going to be about 50 hours. That is not faster than my original machine. So it turns out that even though this chip is like super mega powerful, Apple's operating system prioritizes keeping the machine cool, like your laptop. And so it's like, oh, you have this like super resource intensive task. Yeah, well, we're just gonna not allocate very much effort towards that. It's just gonna kind of go in the background. So please, by all means, continue to look at YouTube and shop on Amazon or whatever it is you want to do. But we're definitely not gonna try very hard on this other thing. So I had to like dig around and first of all, there's a lot of people complaining about that online. But I was able to find like a setting that says, you know, you might want to try a little bit harder, and kind of like just click on that, you know, turn up the juice a little bit. And even when you do that, it's still not trying that hard. I mean, like the processing power, like the processing percentage, it's like not even 50% on that particular task. But it did now drop that 50 to 60 hour render time down to 2 hours, like it should have from the beginning, right? So I was like, Apple, the heck are you doing? So anyway, that was my little Apple story in order to get you this file. All right, so I have not read too much chat so far. And here's the thing is like I actually really like it as a laptop. I had skipped like 3 or 4 generations of laptops until this one came out, and basically until I hit that render button, everything was great. Everything worked faster. It was actually kind of nice to edit on it because it was like definitely more responsive than like this particular desktop. But boy, that just to have it default to potato settings, not cool. It's like, because what if like somebody out there needed to get that done and it was just like, I don't know if this is going to stay consistently like 1% every half hour, or if suddenly is this going to like take off and actually be fast. So they might just sit there and wait, and that's a mistake. It's like clearly something's wrong. So anyway, so the only thing about like building a PC, which by the way I might do down the road, because at this point we have 1, 2, 3, 4, like maybe like 5 Apple machines here. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if we got like a couple more PCs. I think there's like 2 PC laptops here. And the only problem with me doing that is that I use Final Cut, which is an Apple only application. And well, and the idea is that it's like highly optimized to work really well to do this kind of video editing, but clearly it's kind of slow if the settings are all jacked up. Thanks, Apple. But yeah, I was thinking about building a PC because there's a couple of guys here that are like really big into building PCs. I've built a PC before, like a long time ago, in like the 90s. So it's like I'm not completely unfamiliar with the process. I know about it, but I think that at some point in the future, if I ever decide to decouple myself from the Final Cut ecosystem here, or if I like hire like an editor and he's like, yeah, I really like Premiere and I like Adobe products, it's like, fine, I'll just build you a monster machine and then you can edit on Premiere. Because Becca already edits on Premiere, but she still uses Apple primarily, so she's editing on through like Mac OS and all that stuff with Premiere. And so yeah, so it's really just me, and then I have now 2 machines where I could do my Final Cut stuff, and I don't really we don't really go over each other's edits anyway. So if somebody wants to like sit on a PC and do editing, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Let's see. So when I redid all of this broadcast file, you just kind of like reworded some things. So Kyle Jameson, I think, mentioned that like, yeah, I'm actually stating that when there's multiple units available, it's not what you see is what you get. Well, it's going to be what you see is what you get for somebody. one person will get it, but any of like the additional 5 or so, or however many that we're offering, those will be indistinguishably similar. I mean, we didn't exactly like pick out, oh, this is the one. It's like, no, it's like pretty much all these party crasher Sophastreas on that tray look pretty much like that, give or take. So, okay. Let's see. Okay, so for the folks that are completely new to this, and how do you actually shop? So it should be in the description of the video, but you go to tidalgardens.com and you can go to like /live, and you will see all of these corals available for purchase, and you just treat it just like a regular old item. The shipping is $29.99, but if you go over $250, it is free. You can check out multiple times, and to avoid the shipping cost multiple times, you can select adding to an existing order as the shipping option. And just as long as you either pay shipping once or you get over $250, you don't have to worry about it. If you accidentally pay for additional shipping, we just go ahead and refund all that. So no worries there. But that is dealt with, once we're actually putting together the packing, all the packing slips and stuff like that. But that is taken care of there. Yeah, and you can mix and match stuff like from the website, from the live sale category, whatever you want. So it's just treat it just like a regular old item. I missed the context of whoever said FedEx, but we actually ship UPS. Lately, we've been having a lot better success, or just better everything with UPS versus FedEx. Like FedEx is weird here. Like they used to be like really good, and UPS was kind of like and then it flip flops every few years. So we used to ship exclusively FedEx, and I had this great FedEx rep, and she eventually got promoted. She got replaced by somebody not as good, and but then it after we had then switched from FedEx to UPS, we got different delivery people for FedEx, and it just got worse and worse and worse. Going back to my Apple story, my Apple laptop got delivered here, and so to describe my property, there is a house out front. A lot of times people deliver there. There are buildings in the back where all this business stuff happens, right? There's multiple vehicles back there. Clearly there's people back there working, right? And they're not small buildings. You can deliver to any of those. Or there is a random barn that's clearly just a barn. And you can definitely, if you're FedEx, deliver my laptop at the corner of the barn in a puddle. So I guess that's a choice. And literally, they're the only delivery service that does that. Everybody else figures out that, why don't we deliver to the house? Why don't we deliver to this giant headquarters in the back? No, we'll just use the barn puddle. It's fine. There's nothing of value in any of these shipments at all. So yeah, we use UPS. Long story short there. Okay. I'm just picking and choosing some random things to answer here. So let's see if I can get caught up. Yes, and you can ask any reef related questions, but lately I've been ranting. So if I get it, I get it. Get to your question. Okay. Brymac1, what do you use to adjust the color temperature for the video? It is a special effect that is done in post, so it is done in Final Cut. It's not, it's pretty good. It's not, lighting is lighting, right? Your lighting is going to be just plain old different, but this at least gives you an idea of what something looks like in a more daylight color versus what something looks like in a more actinic look. To do that as a practical effect, 250 some odd times would be really challenging. I looked into it. Let's see. B. Cyphastria, one of my favorite corals ever. No doubt. Cyphastria are cool. We have quite a little collection brewing here. I think we have probably like at least half dozen. It's like, would you consider hiring an editor? So Trey Nelson, eventually, like when the YouTube side of things makes sense. I was talking to one of my friends, and like his YouTube channel is like doing really well, and it was to the point where he's just like foaming at the mouth to hire any editors that are available, and like he's just like, I just need editors. I need editors. Like send me an editor. I'm like, I can't, 'cause I can't, because I don't know any anymore. But he was, yeah, I mean, like the revenue that his channel generates is like, dude, you don't need an editor. You need like 10 editors. You need an absolute like media company just to build up from what you've got, because it's like he's doing so well. It's crazy. So if I ever got to like that sort of thing, it's like, guess what? I'm gonna snatch up all the good editors real quick. Okay, let's see. 420 Reefer. Dan, are you the biggest coral farm in America? No, not by a long shot. Most people aren't. Okay, so of the coral farms that people see, we're right up there. I mean, like the gallons or whatever. I don't know if like that's particularly like a valuable metric. You can look at square footage. They're all kind of close. So like, you know, Unique Corals is out there, Worldwide's out there, Top Shelf. Who else does like a lot of coral farming that people know about, like cherry corals? Like everybody is in that same general, more or less size, right? But then there's like some real big places that people just kind of don't know about because it's not open to the public. So compared to those, I am super duper tiny. Like one in particular that I'm thinking about, they can park a freaking blimp in their new building. Like it's so big, it's so gigantic, and it's like I would love. Well, I was about to say it's like I would love to have a building that big one day, but it's like, you know what? It's kind of a pain in the butt because the majority of my time here is just spent like wiping down surfaces, and it's just constant cleaning. And I just can't imagine if this place was 10 times the size. Like, I mean, you could have a full-time job just cleaning bathrooms. It's insane, like just how much cleaning has to happen here. So, yeah, I mean, I think the idea of a bigger place is nice, but I mean, you need to have like a janitorial staff that doesn't even look at the aquariums. It just like cleans the building, because like, you know, you can have like feet of dust just build up. It's crazy. And yes, somebody had explained the little Kelvin thing. Yep, it's basically just illustrating that the light is going from more yellow color like it is currently, and it'll go all the way to a more blue look by the end of that timer. Which, by the way, the bottom left is a timer. That's how long we're going to stick on this particular coral until we move on to the next one. So that gives you an idea of like what that all looks like, or what we're trying to represent over there. Be the fountain. Okay, so how much does an editor cost? I think it depends on geography a little bit, but my guess is between 35 to like 50,000 a year for like a full-time editor. But I think it depends, because I think like a really good, like, you know, witchcraft level editor, working on like a really big channel, I mean, they're worth their weight in gold. So like, you know, six figures, some of them probably. A lot of it though really just comes down to not just how good they are, but just how fast they are. Because a lot of like the really successful YouTube channels, it's not just about producing good content. It's about producing that same level of content multiple times per week in some cases. And that's what is really challenging, because like when I edit a video, I mean, if I like really focus a lot of time on it, it'll still take me a week. Like I don't know if I could ever do like 2-3 videos a week. That's just not happening. So they often like, sometimes it's just better to hire like 3 editors rather than the one top tier editor, because really a lot of it is simply about volume. Okay. let's actually handle some reef-related questions. Lawrence Skiggs, I think that might be how you pronounce that. I have a cloudy film on the surface of my water. All parameters are in check. Any help or ideas? So, Lawrence, the thing I'm immediately thinking is that you probably don't have a surface skimming box. Like, this might be some kind of an all-in-one, or maybe just have external filtration, but it is super normal to have surface buildup on the water. And that's why surface skimming exists. Because, and this is why people have like sumps and have overflow boxes and stuff, because that overflow box, in addition to getting water down into your sump, it clears off that surface scum. So I would say that is totally normal in that case. Now, if you have a surface skimmer and you're still getting a cloudy film, there's something wrong with your surface skimmer, because you should never have that. Okay. Let's see. Gabriel Berkey, you need a Roomba. Funny you mention that. So in my house, my house is fairly small. It has 2 regular Roombas and has 2 of the Roombas that do the mopping. And so my floors, because I have cats at home, my floors, you could eat off of them. They're clean, super clean, right? I love it. And I was like talking. So one of my guys here, one of his daily tasks is to like spend about a half hour and just like run this 4-foot wide mop all over, and just daily mopping. And so the floors here are pretty clean. And I was talking to him about like, I am not opposed to like making the investment just to load this place up with vacuums and robot vacuums and robot mops. The problem is those things, that level of automation is not just set it and forget it. You need to also go track some of these things down, make sure that they're all cleaned up themselves, making sure that the mops have their own water, because they're like, little water containers in them. And I think that it would actually take more time trying to service a dozen robots, because this is a pretty big place in this building. It would take more effort to service the automation than it would be just to like walk a broom around for half hour each day. So yeah, unfortunately, Roombas are probably not going to be a thing in this place, because again, like, and I think that goes with a lot of different things in the hobby. Even when it comes to like a lot of automation, if you have like a single aquarium with automation, it's one thing, right? It's a super helpful tool and all that stuff. But if you have like 10 systems that have each one has their own automation, less great. I mean, there's a lot of calibration that has to happen, especially if like you're relying it on like data collection or doing like water testing and all that. Like, we have a couple of different things that do water tests automatically, and we don't really trust their values, because we don't stay up to date on like calibrating them all the time. So we see a number, but it's like, if we really cared, we would test it ourselves, that sort of thing. So that's kind of like this little like pain point that we just have to kind of like figure out for ourselves. Because in my mind, being like, business guy trying to be more efficient, it's, yeah, I want to automate as much as I can, but in reality, automation does require its own level of labor. And sometimes like that labor just doesn't get done, making the automation itself pretty irrelevant. Okay, Ryan's actually going back to the editor thing. The editor we have out in Medina is at around 45 to 50K. Yeah, that sounds about right. If you can keep an editor busy full time, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, seeing some of the amazing content some of these people produce daily, particularly the gamers, is impressive. Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy how much time they have to spend. I mean, it's like, I don't know how you do it without getting burnt out. Like, you would think, oh, I could totally game for all these hours. It's like, yeah, you in theory you could, but can you game 12 to 16 hours a day? Because that's kind of what's expected now. And it is not great for your mental health. Believe that. And this is coming from a person that used to game full time. Not for a job, because it didn't exist back then, but I used to play 40 hours a week of World of Warcraft while I was working and while I was in law school. Yeah. I did not sleep a whole lot. It was bad. All the editors are like, please hire me. When my YouTube channel in the reef aquarium hobby blows up, we'll see. Let's see. Gabriel Bricker, are you talking about the Triton? Actually, the Triton, I don't own a Triton. We have several Neptune products, but the one I was thinking of, we have a GHL that does some alkalinity testing. Star of Athenery. Do you selectively breed your corals? So we don't, okay, so breeding versus propagation. There are people now that are actually breeding corals through sexual reproduction, but that is the earliest of early stages in this industry. We're talking about like they started last year and they're only now getting stuff that looks like that in their tanks. And so they're like, yes, we've successfully cultured Micromusa lords. They're this big, and it'll probably take a couple more years before you even get to like a frag size that you can even move. And a lot of bad stuff can happen in 2 years. So no, we don't breed them sexually, but we do propagate corals. Like right now, you're seeing some zoanthids. And we are selective in the sense that we're trying to collect nicer and nicer and more popular strains as we go. So because we've been so busy with so many different like building and infrastructure projects, I really haven't been able to really focus in on acquiring like the really choice specimens that's kind of the fun of this hobby. But I think that this coming year we're going to be getting a lot more into that, because I do enjoy like tracking down like the really, 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 really cool off the wall species and stuff. But in that sense, yes, we are pretty selective. Now that's kind of on the propagation side. We do work with importers and stuff like that to bring in some corals that we can't propagate very easily. And so there's that activity going on as well. But I really angle our purchasing more towards stuff that can be propagated long term, because that's coral farm. It's kind of what we do. Let's see. Hoarder Alliance. I was Alliance. Hi, Than. Do you see tidal gardens expanding, changing in the future? Maybe. And do you think that coral importing from the wild will eventually stop in the future? I think it's going to stop in the near future. I don't even think it's going to be that far in the future. So already I can tell that from my import-export friends, Australia is already clamping down on the volume of corals that they're allowing to leave the country. And I know that at any given time, Indonesia goes through its phases of how much they want to ban the entire industry. So yeah, there's a lot of moving and shaking that kind of goes on out there. I'm just very glad that we've made like this commitment to aquaculture pretty much since day one. And we would have grown so much faster had we just done the import thing for like a decade, built up like millions of dollars, and then started to do the aquaculture thing. But since we have so many lessons learned from doing this for so long on smaller scales, that to scale up our facilities now, I think would be, no, I wouldn't say easy, because the logistical challenges of actually getting construction projects done is kind of a pain in the butt. But figuring out what we want to accomplish, that stuff is like, for me, that's like super simple. And I think, yeah, the long-term success of this entire industry is going to be farming and aquaculture based. I don't see it being a situation where more is going to get imported. I think it's, if anything, there's a really good chance that it's all going to be shut off entirely within 5 to 10 years, is my guess. And I think a lot of people that are very serious about this industry all kind of agree with that time frame. They see a complete import-export shutdown. Let's see. Thomas, if order online, is it possible to pick up to save shipping costs? Yes. So just select that adding to an existing order or local pickup, and you can email us later and we will figure out a time to come pick up. And picking up involves basically us bringing the order out to your car. There's like no in-person shopping or anything like that just yet. Tech Gear Talk, what is up? What is up? That's my friend that's trying to get more editors, by the way. So if you're an editor in chat, hit up Tech Gear Talk. He needs to hire more editors. So if you guys want to edit some tech related content, he's your guy. So Sigi, I was telling people that that you need like 10 editors, and you just need like volume output, like just straight up volume to throw at YouTube. Okay, Bert Minshew, do you think that old tank syndrome could be mostly from trace elements because unless you're doing 90% water change then you're constantly losing? It could be a number of things. I mean, some people think that it's because certain, not necessarily toxins, but certain undesirable compounds just build up in rock over time and then slowly get leached back out, and that's not fantastic. I mean, it could be some chemistry related thing. We don't run into that quite so much here because we started to do some pretty hard resets on these tanks because there's some other benefits to doing that, especially when it comes to, kind of like controlling, unwanted pest populations and stuff like that. Like the best thing we've ever done is just like to do like a hard shutdown of a tank, build it right back up, and that like buys you so much time. Whereas like doing like some other things like rounds of heavy dipping and stuff, it's like you get done with all that and the very next day it's like, oh, I see that didn't exactly work. Glad we took all that effort. But doing the hard reset stuff does. So going back to the old tank syndrome thing, we don't typically run into that problem, even though our tanks are over 12 years old at the greenhouse. Urshwood Williams, Vietnam seems to be taking advantage of everyone slowing. Seems to be a lot of mushrooms and zoas from them. Maybe. The importers that I deal with, generally speaking, don't really mess with Vietnam. I think there's some squirreliness with the paperwork coming out of there, and the guys that I know here are a little bit more conservative when it comes to doing that sort of thing because they're successful in their own right, and anytime that you get like weird paperwork and dealing with fish and wildlife, it's not going to go that well because here in the United States, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Office pretty much assumes that you are illegally trying to smuggle in like a white tiger or something. Like they are just assuming that you are trying to smuggle pandas or something like it's something super duper illegal. So unless all of your stuff is just checks out 100%, in their eyes you're a criminal. So yeah, if you're getting like sketch paperwork out of Vietnam, it is so much easier just to say, no, we're not ever working with Vietnam. So when it comes to like my wholesalers, I never see Vietnamese stuff. But back in the day, when I used to, I remember that pretty much every single zoanthid colony coming out of Vietnam had nudibranchs eating them. And so it was an ordeal to like clean those things up. They came in like super duper dirty. Having said that, there's a lot of pests that come in on wild corals. So that should be, just something to keep in mind. If you guys ever run out there, go get yourself a wholesale account. You need to have a system to do intake because guaranteed every pest imaginable is going to be coming in on those wild corals. So be careful of that. Let's see. Donovan Dell, what is a good book to help aid in starting a business? That's a good question. I don't know, to be perfectly honest, because all the books that I read coming up when I was in business school and stuff like that, or like even before business school, I mean, they're all basically like charlatans. Like kind of like get rich quick schemey charlatans. Um, I don't know if there's like a good book, and sometimes like books they're geared more towards not like a startup, but more towards like the corporate machine, entrepreneurship rather than entrepreneurship. Um, yeah, I don't know. I really don't. That's a toughie. To be perfectly honest, I think the best thing to do is just to start a side hustle and just face plant into every single problem along the way, and you will learn so much. And especially since it's a side hustle, it's not like you're not your day job isn't at risk of this. Don't put in very much money into that side hustle, but you will learn accounting, you will learn sales and marketing, you will learn infrastructure and warehousing, like whatever it is else you do, you're gonna learn a lot. Contracts, negotiation, sales, all that fun stuff. Like just as simple as like, how do I send an email without it like marking me as spam, and messing everything up, stuff like that. It's just sometimes it's just good just to get started and see where it all ends up. Kevin Johnson, have you ever had to deal with colonial hydroids? Like a long time ago. Generally speaking, these days we don't. Only because we don't have a ton of live rock type material with our tanks. I used to have that more when I had live rock. You can easily get rid of that stuff by pulling it manually. They don't grow that fast, so if you just stay on top of like ripping out a quarter-sized piece every day, you'll be all right. I'm in the research phase, planning on a first build sometime next summer or fall. What resources might you recommend to learn about the most sustainably grown corals on the market? Not to toot my own horn, but like most of the information you're going to find on corals these days are probably going to be on Tidal Gardens. It's kind of a niche, and like if you do a search on any particular coral, there's a really good chance we're going to show up. Outside of us, I know Reef Builders has some stuff, but I think that he might have like a more macro view of it rather than like a care tips guide, so to speak. But yeah, I think that like in general, if stuff is like frag sized, it's going to be more of the sustainably grown stuff versus like the really, really big colony stuff, which probably showed up on a plane. Jeremy Davis, have you ever considered fish aquaculture? No. I feel like the corals would also benefit from the phytoplankton rotifers. Okay, so the phytoplankton rotifer stuff, I could see that. The reason why we don't do fish aquaculture is because culling is a necessary part of fish aquaculture, and we just don't have the heart to do it. Pretty much real simple there. Like, I just don't feel right just killing a whole bunch of fish that might have like birth defects or something wrong with it. Yeah, I mean, some people are like, oh, you can just like feed it off to this other fish. I'm like, don't love it. But for the folks that are out there that do fish aquaculture, especially in this industry, I think you can do really well with it. Especially now that there's a lot more documentation and success doing it. But for us, like just where we are mentally with it, it's a completely different operation. And again, I don't like culling, so because it's like even with coral, sometimes like something would grow way too fast, and like a better business person would just take all of this stuff and just throw it away. We would rather literally either sell it at a loss or give it away rather than throw it away. So that's kind of like where we are on that. Because there's currently stuff that's like less than probably like $10 or less on our website, and it's usually because there's just so much of it that we just need to thin stuff out just to create space. But we don't want to throw it away because that would be messed up. Now, going back to the fish aquaculture thing, people seriously need to start culturing some copper band butterflies for me. Thanks. We can use them. I would use one in every tank if I could. Courtney, anyone have any coral issues using reef flux? I've never used that product. Have bryopsis and no vets will give me fluconazole. There was like an online place that I ordered it from. Like, okay, so I don't remember it exactly. I think it's called like Fluco Forte or something like that. Flucoforte. Yeah, just do a quick Google search on that and see if anything comes up. But yeah, that was just like a checkout, and it was fine or something. Uh, reading. What about the book, The Lean Startup? Haven't read it. Let's see, what books did I read? So I read like the Robert Kiyosaki books. That's like Rich Dad, Poor Dad and stuff like that. Looking back on it, yeah, that guy's probably like a total fraud. One that people also like to do a lot of, they cite this particular book a lot. It's like the E-Myth. And that's more about like franchising and stuff like that. And you have to understand, like I went to school for business like so long ago that I mean a lot of the stuff that we think about now just simply doesn't apply. I mean like none of these books are talking about, you know what you should definitely do? Start a YouTube channel, because that's going to be like the best thing you ever do, period. You know, none of these books are going to say that. Case in point. Okay, so I told this story a little while ago, but I got this random email from this marketing executives society here in town, and I guess it's like an international thing. I'm not even sure. I didn't know anything about this group. So they're like, you've been nominated for this award. I'm like, okay, so this is some spam email that came through, and you've been nominated for this award. You know, please fill out this really quick application and blah blah blah. Okay, so I'm like, oh, they're just probably fishing for some personal information. This is a total scam. Later on, I get another email. This is like months after I got that first "you've been nominated" thing, and it is for that same organization's annual party / awards banquet, and it's a black tie affair, and like the cost of entry is like $100. And I'm like, well, I've been so pent up in here, and there's almost never any like cool black tie things to attend here in Akron, Ohio. So I'm like, I'm gonna pay $100 to go to this thing, just to see, because you know what, shoot, I've got like cool tuxedos and stuff like that. I'm gonna put it to good work. So I paid $100 to go to this thing. And sure enough, it was not a scam. It was not a scam. It was a pretty nice little evening, and there's all these people that were, getting awards and stuff like that. And it's like, you know what? I could have actually not only come to this thing, but come to it for free and been on stage getting an award. But I needed to check it out first. But my point to that is, this is a marketing executives conference / banquet, and literally everybody I talked to looked at me like I was crazy when I said YouTube. You all need to have a YouTube channel, period, end of story. They're like, huh? Like, we don't even look at YouTube. I was like, yeah, because you all suck at your jobs, that's why. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so like in like traditional business, they're super slow on catching on to these things. Fans should teach business ethics. Well, we do try to keep our nose pretty clean here. I guess that is true. Like, I would much rather not make money than make money in like a total scammy way. because it's actually pretty easy to make money legitimately. So kind of, so and especially like going back to the whole import export guys that I work with. I mean, they're successful enough that like there's no incentive to do something like mega shady. Because like if you get caught doing something mega shady when you were already successful, you're the dumbest human being imaginable. Like all you needed to do was just do stuff normally above board and you're like a millionaire. Or you could be in jail. Like, what are you doing, dude? Anyway, so yeah, you would think that like more people would be into like just just be cool, don't do anything mega illegal, but I don't know. I guess greed has no bounds when it comes to like the business side of things. Was Rich Dad Poor Dad a good read? I mean, I think the guy sucks. So probably not the best, the most positive review of that book. But no, I mean that got me interested in business. So I have to give her some credit for that. The thing that really got me interested in business was I was primarily like a biology computer science guy in college, and then after I got done with that phase of my career, I had taken this accounting class because I needed to take some elective, and I just decided I'll just take some business classes as electives. So I took this accounting class, which theoretically should have been shockingly boring, right? And we're going through what is called an income statement. And it's like you just start at the very top. It's like, okay, let's say that we sold X number of widgets and it cost us, or we charge this amount of money for these widgets. It costs us this much to procure the raw materials for the widgets, and this is the manufacturing cost of the widgets. And then you subtract all that. Then you then have to like subtract off, your selling and administrative expenses. How much did your website cost? All the stuff, and then you get down, and then okay, and there's this number here, and you have to pay income tax on all that stuff. Blah 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 blah. And at the very end, you get to net income, and it was like $700,000, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, rewind all that. Let's go back over that again. So you're telling me all I need to do is sell X number of these widgets, and then at the end of the year, I'm going to make 700 grand. Okay. I learned something today. Because like previously I was thinking, like the way you make money is like, oh, you just become a doctor or something. But no, to make real money, you need to own the business. And thank you, random accounting class, for teaching me that little lesson. Because like coming from like a tech background, you don't really get exposed to a lot of that stuff. It's like, how does stuff really work? B, I want a black tie reef event so badly. I love getting dressed up. B, if there there is one, but you're not gonna like it. So I went to a black tie fundraiser for Shed Aquarium. I was invited by like the chairman of the board, and so me and a friend attended that, and obviously you're in and around all those aquariums and stuff. They put on like a freaking dolphin show for all these rich people. It's awesome, but like the individual seats to that were $1,000. Plus, I think the idea was you were also going to donate more after that. So since I was like a guest of the chairman, he ponied up like the couple $1,000s for me and a guest. But if I had that kind of like financial flexibility in the future, I am so down to go back to something like that because it was super, super, super cool. Actually, if you look on the YouTube channel, the Tidal Gardens YouTube channel, obviously, there is a video where I kind of showed a little hint of that. And what was crazy is that like they got Hamilton to perform as a part of the dolphin show for the rich folks. It's a good time. It's a good time. Josh the Box, my LFS smuggles corals and got caught. Dude, smuggling corals is not the greatest idea in the world. I was talking to this guy from he works with Unique, I believe, and he exports out of the Solomon Islands. A lot of the corals and stuff. He basically is Solomon Islands export. And we met in Chicago, Orlando. We met in Orlando, and he was telling me all these like nightmare stories about import export. For example, one day, Fish and Wildlife just showed up at his place, and they had like their hands on their guns, and they're like, "Everybody freeze! You are being charged with illegally smuggling trees." And this guy is like, "Trees? How could you think we're smuggling it's corals. There's aquariums everywhere, right?" So what had happened though, what had happened, right, was that his regular guy over in the Solomons, he was gone that particular day that they were doing this shipment. And the replacement guy in the Solomons, there was like some extra room in one of the boxes. And so he just like threw in a few like random mangroves or something like that. And so when Fish and Wildlife opened up that particular box to check it for contraband, there's these mangroves. And so it's not on the sheet. Again, paperwork, right? If your paperwork does not say that there's going to be these mangroves in here, then you are now illegally smuggling trees. And so they had to fight that in court for a long time at a great expense, because the backup substitute exporter guy threw in some mangroves, and now you got guys with guns coming to your place. So I can only imagine the utter recklessness of a random store intentionally trying to smuggle corals. That is so risky. Like, I can't imagine that in any way, shape, or form a good idea. Like other countries, like they don't care at all. From what I understand, like Mexico, like getting stuff from Mexico into the United States is difficult. Getting stuff to Mexico for the Mexican market, I mean, I've heard stories where they're just super cool with it. They're like, yeah, we would love to sell your corals here. We have no problem crossing the border. Okay. And this is like the authorities, by the way. I'm not talking about just like some random store that wants to purchase corals, but for like the actual, official office. They're like, yeah, come on in. We're cool. Okay. Let's see. Where did I go to school? Okay, so I did my undergraduate at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And then when I moved back home here, my dad was a professor at this local place, Akron University, or the University of Akron. And a lot of my like post undergraduate stuff was just kind of like done in the evenings, because at various times I was either able to get a tuition waiver because my dad is a professor, or I was working for the university, and university employees also oftentimes get a tuition waiver. So I was just like taking night classes because I didn't have a whole lot going on. It was either watch television or go to night school for something. And so I did like my business school in the evening. I did law school in the evening. And so, yeah, so it's a combination of Michigan and Akron. And for a little while, when I was working like the more corporate job, I was down at Ohio University. And I could have taken classes at Ohio University, but I was talking to my boss and I'm like, if I got a PhD, would that in any way, shape, or form help me? And he was like, absolutely not, because at that point, all you would be doing would be creating questions in the mind of anybody that was thinking about hiring you. Because it's like, if this person is like a computer science person, a biology person, can do pharma stuff, can has a master's in business and a law degree, and now is also a PhD. It's like, is this person just going to get bored and leave whenever he feels like it because at any given time he can just go practice law? It was like, no. It's like whatever your academic career is fleshed out to the point that anything more would be a total distraction. And so at that point, I was already kind of getting sick of corporate life. And I was like, really the only thing that I need to do to really advance my career is to be a successful business person. Because that is completely separate from academics. That is completely separate from like what's on your resume typically. It's like if you can run a successful business, your value in the world, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, it goes way up. Those Solomon Islands Yumas are fire. You know, I need to like get more familiar with what the Solomons has to offer. I heard that there's like some really good stuff out of there, and then there's like some meh. So Adam Sorrell, that reverse prism Favia is fire. Thank you. Yeah, according to my latest video, not a Favia. So if you guys like hadn't watched my latest video, there's like a lot of naming convention changes at least on the scientific side, and we'll see how long it takes for the aquarium industry to catch up with that. But I guess there's no Favia in the hobby. There's really only a couple species of Favia right now, and they're both from the Caribbean or Caribbean. Okay, in chat, do you say Caribbean or Caribbean? Okay, Caribbean or Caribbean. So if you say Caribbean, put a 1 in chat. If you say Caribbean, please put 2. So I'm just kind of curious. Votes 1s and 2s. Caribbean 1, Caribbean 2. Because I say it both ways. But yeah, so anyway, Favia only from the Caribbean Sea. They're only Caribbean. Similarly, Scalimia, only from the Caribbean Sea. So yeah, it looks like from the voting, I see a lot of 2s. But I see like I'd say it looks like about 60-something% are saying Caribbean. And a bunch of and so somebody said the UK pronunciation is Caribbean. Okay, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that got reshuffled, but I think that a lot of the familiarity in the hobby is based around like those are scolies. They're going to be scolies for a good long time. Andrew is like, I'm from Trinidad, and we say both. Yeah. B, I thought the scolemia were all changed to homophilia. Well, it's kind of, sort of. So Scalimia australis, which is like the really pretty ones from Australia, like the candy apples and the master scolies, all that stuff, right? Those are all Homophilia australis now. But there are like Scalimia vidiensis, which I think they got pushed into not homophilia. I think they got pushed into lobophilia or something. Then there's like these other scolies that are still scolies, like cubensis and stuff like that, and those are the ones from the Caribbean. Yeah, so as far as the hobby is concerned, the ones that you're most likely to see are going to be homophilia. Now, somebody was asking on that video, so what about croc island scolies and button scolies? I don't know if those have been really classified as anything, and they might never have actually been scolies. They were just these things that kind of looked like scolies, and then therefore they were called scolies, but they might not have any kind of scientific designation at all. Kind of curious. Yeah, the Euphyllia thing kind of like surprised me too. So this is from Isherwood Williams. Yeah, I learned about that on my trip to Dallas in October. Like some random person came up to me and was like, "What do you think about the reclassification of Euphyllia?" And I'm like, "Oh, it was reclassified." And then so like Jake Adams was like sitting right next to me and was like, "What are they now?" You know, because like this is like his thing. Like he loves talking about reclassification and coral taxonomy. And so yeah, it's like I guess hammers and frog spawn are now Fimbriophilia, and the only thing that are currently still Euphyllia are torches. That's going to take a little while to get used to, I think. Yeah, so like the coral pronunciation thing is also really interesting. So this is Kyle Jameson saying that. Yeah, because if you so okay, let's do another voting round here, okay? Do you say acropora? That's one if you say acropora, or do you say acropora? That's number two. So one or two, acropora or acropora? Jair Diggles, I saw you at Aquashella Dallas and you were way taller than expected. That's funny. Yeah, I get that a lot. I mean, I'm about 6 feet tall. Okay, so it's funny. So like everybody's like, one, silly, lol, one, clearly it's acropora. If you walk into any research lab, it's always acropora. Yeah, yeah, like Bert's like, one, of course, lol. Yeah, so like when research places, I can always tell like when it's gonna be some research lab that wants to buy coral, because they're like Posilopora. Yeah, because it makes me think of like Hymenoptera, you know, like that. It's that type of like pronunciation, but yeah, it's like it'll be like Acropora. Posilopora. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's very, very interesting. So yeah, it's the clear distinction between like the two communities, between like the scientific folks and the hobbyists. Montipora. Yeah, you know, I was just thinking. Okay, this is extremely off topic now, but when it comes to like pronunciation, but you know the word like helicopter. Um, that's like horrifically mispronounced. It really should be Helicoptera. I so it's like terra means wing, and helico is like in reference to the shape of the wing. So helicopter is Helicoptera. So anyway, that's a fun one to break out at the cocktail parties. Let me tell you. Let's see. I've been personally working to update Wikipedia's articles on hammers and frog spawns with regard to their taxonomy. Okay, cool. Cool. I know Jake would really appreciate that. He's so funny. Like he was like, see, he was telling me like, I'm willing to be a total jerk when it comes to this. It is so important to me. And it's like, I feel you. I'm not quite there because you know it's you know being a coral seller, you have to be there when that person wants to buy Gonioptera, right? So it's important that even if this was somehow not a Gonioptera, if somebody is searching for this, I need to show up. So that's why you're still gonna see Scalemia. I'm gonna try to like slowly phase in like the correct names. But that's why we're probably going to be sticking with like kind of like the more industry familiar stuff for like a good long while. And it's simply because you have to meet people where they are when it comes to like this sort of thing. But I at least will make a video at least addressing it. Also, there's like that video was really talking about just the scientific names that we use, and that we're using incorrectly. So for example, describing something as a parietes when it is not a parietes. Like I think that these actually are parietes, but at different times, I mean, we thought that this was a Montipora for like the longest time, and it very well might not be a parietes. It could be something else. But there's an entire segment of the hobby that's not really talking about incorrectly named coral that's scientific. It's just like chalices. There's probably 20 genera of corals in this this chalice umbrella, like lithophyllin, echinopora, oxypora, like all these different ones, right, under chalices. So yeah, there's like mislabeled stuff on both the common name side as well as the scientific side. So that video is really only talking about like the scientific side, but there's like a big thing like plate corals, for example. Just for convenience, I call them all fungia, but there's a lot of them that are not fungia. There's like Cycloceras. There's probably like a half dozen different varieties of coral that got thrown into like the plate coral category. B is like saying, I'm going to be using the real pronunciation of helicopter for the rest of my life. Yeah. So I learned that fairly recently because there's an EV company called Aptera, and I think I guess that would be the correct pronunciation. It's Aptera, because it means like no wing, and it's essentially an EV three-wheeled motorcycle, and it's shaped like an airplane wing. Like it has this teardrop shape, and supposedly on a single charge it can go 1,000 miles because it's so efficient. Yeah, that might be the most uncomfortable 1,000 miles you'll ever drive, but yeah. So they named that company Aptera. Well, no, I guess that's improperly pronounced, right? Because it's like it should be Aptera, not Aptera, right? Anyway, the useless information I learn and it sticks, versus like, when should I pay my sales tax this month? Oh, I forgot about it this time. Let's see. That's my reason for using both Micromusa and Acan in anything I write. I want someone to find it no matter what they call it. Yep. Yeah, so Acanthastrea, geez. I mean, I grew in my day, pretty much like Acans were like the Acanthastrea lords, little bit of Acan echinata, but now Acans officially, and oh, by the way, there's like Acan bowerbankies and stuff like that. So Acan bowerbanki got kicked out into Euphyllia along with the artist formerly known as Scolemia, and that actually makes it like a ton of sense to me because they're all pretty similar. But the Acanthastrea lords got bumped into Micromusa lords, so the only things that were really remaining in Acanthastrea were stuff that's not in the hobby or Acan echinata. But then certain lobos got kicked out of Lobophilia and got thrown into Acanthastrea. So it's like Acanthastrea pachycepta used to be Lobophilia pachycepta, which is like these orangish purple ones. In my mislabeled coral thing, I threw it in there as a Lobophilia when it's actually now even an Acanthastrea. So in my own video talking about mislabeling stuff, there was a coral that was mislabeled. But yeah, and that's a weird one to me because it's like, I kind of don't really see that one. I mean, I'm sure that there's like a difference between that and another Lobophilia, but to bump it into Acanthastrea, it's like at this point, like what is Acanthastrea even? Like I don't know if there's any like real similarities I even see in that entire thing. but that's just me. Yeah. So what else is in acans? Oh yeah. So the other story I had about Acanthastrea is that there used to be a thing where people had these like big polyp Acanthastrea, and they would all call them like Acanthastrea maxima, and I can guarantee you there's a 0% chance that that is really an Acanthastrea maxima, because from what I understand, those are only found in Oman, and they have never been exported out of the Middle East. So if somebody is saying that they have an Acanthastrea maxima out there, very, very, very unlikely that they were successfully able to get it out of the Red Sea onto a plane and into the United States. That would be, I don't even know how they got to Oman, to be perfectly honest. Like, that's not an easy place to get to. Like, even pre-pandemic, like pre all this other stuff, it's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not up on my Mideast politics, but it's like, I think there's only like a handful of places where it would be like relatively easy, and I don't think Oman is on that list. Let's see, James Anoop. I don't know why, but pronunciation has never bothered me for anything. Um, I don't mind it. Like so sometimes I think that it can be fun. Like um, I like certain words pronounced in the native language because I think it's I don't know why, but I think it's kind of like hilarious. So one of the guys here, Ben, he cannot pronounce a French word to save his life. Like he can read the words, like the spelling isn't even that exotic, and is not even that exotic, but his brain cannot wrap itself around French pronunciation, and so like whenever like he tries, it's like, oh my god, I did not think you could butcher it that bad, but here we are. But okay, I might be one of the only people, but I like the way German sounds. Like everybody else, think that like French sounds beautiful, and German is like kind of like Klingon or something. But I actually like how German stuff is pronounced. Okay, what about those giant meat corals? Are they Acanthastrea as well? Those giant meat corals. Acanthophilia. Those are Acanthophilia. Yep. Kyle got you there. It's that scummy LFS smuggler. Luis Heredia, hello from Tijuana. I've been to Tijuana once. It was a long, long time ago. Long time ago. These days, if I'm ever in Mexico, it's always just in the Yucatan area. I'm a creature of habit. It's like I had such a good time in, visiting like Cancun and stuff like that. It's like I just want to do that again. Thanks. But lately, I've been getting a lot of invites to go to Mexico City. So at some point, I think I'll make that trek. Okay, Fausto Artega. How does the lifestyle work? So guys, we are about halfway through the show. If you are interested in purchasing one of these corals, you can go to tidalgardens.com/live, and you will see thumbnails for all the corals that we've covered to this point, assuming that that one didn't sell out or something. And you can even see, if you wanted to skip ahead, you can see the thumbnails for all those and just make purchases if you like. The purpose of this whole thing is really for some audience engagement. If you guys had any questions, just wanted to tell some stories, have a good time. And in addition, you can purchase corals in the background. So it's kind of like QVC for corals, but it's a lot of storytelling. Now, when it comes to shipping, it is a flat rate $29.99 anywhere in the U.S. except for Hawaii, which we cannot send to, and Alaska is extra, and Puerto Rico is extra. Shipping is free over $250, and it is just U.S. only. B, so like I hate I've been missing this. This is fun. Yeah, it's a good time. Is it always on Saturday? Yeah, generally speaking, it's always on a Saturday. There's been an occasion or two where I've basically done this entire broadcast over again because something like horribly went wrong on Saturday. Like the internet kept cutting in and out or something like that. So I would grit through it, and then the next day I'd be like, you know what, we're gonna run this back because yesterday was such a messed up live stream. We're going to try it again. Hopefully the internet connection cooperates better. It's like that sort of thing. But generally speaking, it's done on Saturdays. And the thing is, it's like I say, it's like QVC for coral, except for the fact that I haven't even watched QVC in forever. So I don't know what QVC is like these days. If I still lived in that area, I'd make it my life's work to have a cigar and BS with Ann. So the cigar thing might be a little bit tricky, because even though like the whole cigar elegant gentleman thing is a thing, I've had one experience with cigars, and I don't think that I can do that again. I was at a friend's bachelor party, and granted, I think I might have had 13 drinks that night. These days, like one or two drinks max, right? But that night, I think I had 13 drinks. And so it probably was as much just like freaking alcohol poisoning as anything. But I was also like puffing on cigars all night. And I think it's just like it gets in your mouth and you end up swallowing a lot of the tobacco and stuff and all the smoke. And the next day, I am absolutely sure I've never been sicker in my whole life. And I had to attend this wedding, and I must have been just green colored, because like I felt like it was like in this out of body experience where like I am a parasite in my own body, just watching stuff happen, because I've never been so sick ever. So ever since then, I'm like, I don't think me and cigars are gonna work out. Let's see. Luis. I have an ultra low nutrient system. What kind of SPS should I try first? Ultra low nutrient. I've never really had great success with ultra low nutrient. And I think a lot of times, it kind of runs like counter to my whole philosophy of it. But the sort of corals that I think would transition best to that type of environment would be things like Acropora. And I know that's not like a great beginner coral to just to jump in there with, but ultra low nutrient it is targeted for Acropora. So you might want to get into some locally grown stuff in your neck of the woods and slowly acclimate them to that ultra low nutrient system, and see if you have some success with that. This is me shooting myself in the foot here a little bit, but I wouldn't be in a huge hurry to like get a lot of stuff like shipped in or anything like that, because they're going to be stressed already. It's winter time here. And you don't want to immediately start starving stuff out on day one. Like, I think that ultra low nutrient is one of those things that, it's going to be a shock to a lot of corals, because I think that they're used to a lot more feeding. So this is just me spitballing here. Perhaps what could work is, if you do like maintain the super low levels, is to go heavier on things like amino acid feeding and stuff like that, to make sure that the corals are getting their nutrition. Because I think that's like kind of an undersold aspect to success in those systems, is how much feeding you have to do to replace the fact that there is no nutrient in the water. Yeah, I'd say beer, but I don't drink anymore. You know what? It's perfectly cool to not drink. I do not drink a whole lot. I had a similar experience at my brother-in-law's bachelor party. Haven't been able to stomach smoking a cigar since. Yeah, people don't warn you about that. It's like they're just don't even inhale, just puff. Like, oh, okay, like puff, 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 puff. And then all night, it's like the next day, I thought I was gonna die. And like the one guy that was hosting the party, like his dad was like a judge, and this judge, poor guy, had to like try to like nurse me to life so I could like leave the house. It was pretty rough. Lothario Boat. Fan, tell us about the time you went skydiving and ended up delivering a baby in midair. We want to know. That's a slightly more interesting story, if it happened, than me just getting sick smoking cigars, huh? Let's see. Nitrate lower than 5, waiting on the test kit from BRS, and phosphate at 0.05. That's not super low. I mean, that's low-ish, but I think that like when people are looking at like the ultra low numbers, it's basically like practically undetectable nitrate, and like the phosphate is like 0.0, sometimes like 0.00 something. I drank more than I have in probably 7 years in Chicago. So I was there, and so this is what was funny. Like, I get like really businessy, more so at those events, while I think everybody else that goes to these shows, at least on the professional side, I'm not gonna like tell too many stories about that, because I think it's like Vegas. It's like some stuff like stays in Vegas sort of thing. And people have themselves a good old time at these conferences for the reef aquarium community. If you didn't know, people in this reef aquarium industry, they like to have themselves a little bit of a party, right? But I tend to get like more businessy as those things go on. So I generally speaking don't like partake in all the festivities that go on. So I remember that night in Chicago because the hosts, I think it was for, this is Reefapalooza, so that would have been like the Worldwide Corals folks. They had actually rented out like a Chinese restaurant for like the vendors and all those folks, right? The industry folks. And so instead of doing, so hold on, backing up, they rent out the Chinese restaurant, and then afterwards, the bar at the hotel was an open bar that evening after dinner. So they had shuttle services to take you to the Chinese restaurant, and they bring you back, and it's open bar. So I was like, I desperately need a second wind. I'm so tired. I've been on the floor this entire time. So what I did is I ate alone at the hotel. They just had like a hamburger or something like that. I went, got some sleep, got a shower in. And so by the time that those guys came back from the restaurant, and I'm sure that they're plenty of them had been drinking at the restaurant. Now, like, I am like fresh as a daisy for open bar. And all I did was drink water at the open bar and strike up conversations with people. And I was just like, this is almost unfair, because they are getting like progressively more trashed and exhausted, and I had like this total second wind. And yeah, I had some great conversations at the open bar night. But yeah, like seriously, like, and it's not that I don't drink, but I try not to drink a lot, when especially in those professional settings. And yeah. Anyway, just a random memory because B had mentioned that. I'm too lazy to look at the Echinata care guide if there is one. Care tips. The only thing, I mean, keeping one alive is not that difficult. They like to be fed. Definitely try to feed them. They're super easy to feed. But the other thing that I would say is keep them away from everything, because they are super duper hyper aggressive and stingy. Luis, Dan, I live in Cleveland. I'm coming to pick them up from you. Fantastic. Nice. Yeah, dinner came with 3 drinks each. Oh, God. Rough. Everyone kept handing me drinks. I was talking to one of my dissertation committee members all night. I was trying not to be drunk while everyone was getting me drunk. Yeah, it's like people don't know. Like people think, oh, ha ha ha, fish nerds, right? No, they really like to party. Like you can get yourself into some trouble, like late at night at these conferences. And I'm not just like singling one out. Like, so I would say as far as like, well, shoot, maybe I'm speaking out of turn there. They all party. Like I was just thinking, well, the most industry one would probably be MACNA, right? That's probably going to be the most straight-laced one. But it's like, no, I've definitely been there where like literal fist fights were about to break out at the bar at MACNA. Definitely, yeah, people like to get their party on at MACNA, drank too much, talk too much smack at the bar. Then I was thinking, like, well, Aquashella is like the most actual party atmosphere. And I'm like, yeah, like good times were had there and stuff. And I suppose like Reefapalooza would be like halfway. But it's like the more I think about it, it's like, no, pretty much after show's over and once like the evening festivities start, it's like they're all pretty much the same. They all like to have themselves a good time. Funny. Okay, Lothario Bo, what's your thoughts on adding bacteria to a tank? Okay, we don't do it often. We hardly ever do it, but I think that this whole idea of like probiotics and probiotic health, and not just yourself, but also in your reef aquarium, really could go a long way. And I just don't know enough about it. And we kind of have a little bit too much going on here to really experiment with that. But what does kind of like spark my interest is that there's some folks out there that as a preventative thing, they are dosing their tanks with with an antibiotic called ciproflava something. Let me see if I can like look it up. Ciprofloxacin. And so supposedly doing that every maybe like 4 months or so in a like a Euphyllia or whatever the heck hammers and frog spawn are now, actually helps, because sometimes in long-term aquaculture what you have is just like, you just like start losing like a head or two from like weird bacterial infections seemingly out of nowhere. And so supposedly like an occasional use of Cipro helps with that. And then, but once you do that, it kind of like nukes all the bacteria, good or bad, in your tank. And so you have to quickly reintroduce the healthy biome back. So then people load up on what's the Brightwell product? It has like the 7 bacteria. There's different products. Look it up, right? We haven't done that, but that's something that we might want to try in the future, just because as these tanks age and stuff like that, sometimes like you just get some bacterial weirdness where sometimes it's not even like enough to necessarily kill colonies, but something's going on, something's not quite right. And for us, we experience it the most in Blastomussa. We experience it the most in Euphyllia and hammers, torches, frog spawn, all that stuff. So that's something that I was thinking about. Haven't tried it yet, like I said. Yeah, and going back to the whole thing, it's like the reason why I say that I want to make sure that it's not out of turn, because it's like a lot of like weird stuff starts happening at these things, and it's like it's a total like Las Vegas thing. It's like, let's just not talk about this ever again. It's just there's a lot of drama. It's like, let's never speak of this again. I'm gonna go ahead just for like I'm gonna do you a solid. I'm gonna forget this had ever happened. That sort of stuff. Were the fist fights over pronunciation? No, they were not. They were over much dumber stuff, I promise you. I think conferences for many industries are like that. Yeah, that's probably true. But you wouldn't, well, at least I wouldn't necessarily expect that amongst the reef aquarium crowd. But I know, like there's certain like company owners. I'm not gonna like out them because the people who know, right? There's some dudes that they could probably drink an elephant under the table, and like they really like to like drink a lot and like good alcohol a lot all night sort of thing, like legendary drinkers. So I'm like, Jesus, like how do you function? Like how are you alive? Like how, like seriously, how are you alive? That is probably like 15 shots of whatever that was. Like that's a lot. Anyway, okay, so I will tell a funny story though. So in Chicago, so this was in one of the after hours things. So this is a big conference center at the Schaumburg Conference Center in Chicago, and there's multiple conferences going on. There's like this thing going on for like the Vampire Diaries TV show. So there's a bunch of like young girls going to meet the actors of that TV show. Then there's this other show going on, and I don't know what that show is for, but there was like a lot of like really attractive young women there, and it was kind of funny because at the bar you could have like a group of like very young like 20 somethings women, and I was like joking that what, that whole conference over there, it strikes me as like this multi-level marketing scheme. So for the rest of the weekend I was just always calling them those MLM girls, but it was funny because all of like these reef aquarium nerds would just be like lining up to go hit on the MLM girls at the bar, and it's just like just one after the other. And I'm just thinking like, guys, I don't think they're here to have a great time. I think they're here to try to make money. Like they're here for the MLM, guys. Chill out. But it was just like the whole reef aquarium crowd was like shooting their shot. It was pretty funny. Let's see. Kyle Jameson. Okay, so it's upsetting that virtually none of these reefing events are held in Phoenix. I think MACNA was in Phoenix a few years ago, like pre-pandemic, which I thought was crazy because it was in like September, and I thought that Phoenix was going to be like 150 degrees or something. But it was in Phoenix, I thought, unless it got canceled because of the pandemic. I'm not sure. If they would only put on a black tie event instead of drinking instead of drinking alcohol. Yeah. No, black tie is really its own thing. I mean, there's so few places where you can actually do black tie. I have to take my chances whenever they come up. Like the most recent thing that I did for black tie was a friend of mine was throwing a surprise birthday party, a surprise 40th birthday party for her boyfriend. And the birthday party being a surprise, what she told this boyfriend, the pretense of the whole thing, was that it was a James Bond themed party. It is not a James Bond themed party. It is really just a surprise party for him. But on that invitation, it's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and pretend that it is a James Bond themed party and just go in black tie. And thankfully, a lot of other people took that same cue because everybody was like super well dressed. So even though it wasn't really a black tie party, it for the most part became one, and that was like really cool. It's a lot of fun. Good night. I forgot about the Vampire Diaries thing. Yeah. There's a lot of like it was a big convention center, so there's a lot of other things going on other than Reefapalooza. Augustin Ramirez, what should I do if my magnesium is high? Do you have any suggestions? Funny you mentioned that. One of our systems is climbing in magnesium, and we're not really sure why that is. So the worry is that we have a batch of salt that's just hot in magnesium, because we don't add magnesium. We tested. We looked at like the data sheets for the calcium and alkalinity additives that we're using. There's no magnesium in that. We've been using the same calcium reactor media for years now, seemingly, and there hasn't been any previous spike in magnesium. So yeah, we're getting close to like 14, almost 1500 magnesium, and lowering values is really a challenge, especially if a lot of that is coming, like stemming from your water source. So hopefully it's not our salt batch. We're currently using reef crystals, if that helps at all. Boy, it's getting windy outside, scary. But yeah, we ordered a bunch of ICP tests, and I think we're just gonna like do like some Salifer testing of our water supply, and then send off some to the lab. They were paying to take pictures of the Vampire Diaries people. You have to make a booth and charge people to take pictures with you. That would be lonely, I imagine. Okay, so Phoenix was a pandemic year, so they did it online. Okay, gotcha. MACNA Phoenix was canceled. Okay. You know, I almost kind of want them to do something in either Phoenix or someplace in Arizona, because I have a friend there that I would really like to visit. And she hasn't been able to travel mainly because of COVID, and she's like a cancer survivor, so she's like immune compromised. So she's not getting on a plane for any reason. And as much as I would like to get on a plane and go visit her, I need a little bit more to do. So it's like I kind of want to do it along with like some work event. Like I don't get to travel a lot just for fun, you know. It's almost always, if I travel, it has to have like some kind of like work justification most of the time. Fan, have you tried Miracle Mud? No, I have not. I kind of thought Miracle Mud was kind of a fad in like the early 2000s. I haven't heard anybody really mess with it since. I mean, certain things just never like really become mainstream. I know some people still use like the mud thing, but I haven't really messed with it too much. Let's see. Yeah, the fan picture booth would be the busiest one. Doubt. Okay, so you know what? Since I did get caught up with chat for the most part. Actually, one last question that I just kind of missed here. I have a 45 cube all-in-one. What light would you recommend for a variety of corals? I guess it depends on your price point, but generally speaking, once you get out of just like the strips and into like the Kessels, into the AIs, the Ecotechs, and if you wanted to go like even bigger budget, like the Orphics and stuff like that, once you get into that price tier, they will all work really, really nicely. So for a 45 cube, my choice would probably be a Radeon, probably XR15 Pro. That's probably what I would do. But I mean, they tend to be kind of expensive. So if you were looking for a little bit less expensive, I think that Kessels is certainly an option. I'm just worried about like spread issues on a 45. I mean, it's probably going to be all right, but maybe Kessel is an option. What do you guys think? I mean, you can go as cheap as you want. You can just go with Amazon T5s for like $100. But yeah, you can make a lot of stuff work. I mean, a lot of stuff will work. It just kind of depends on what features you're looking for. Okay, so real quick, let's quickly say the thank yous, right? Okay, thank you, Bill Russell. Thank you, Brandy Camp. And thanks, Brandy, for like being a good sport and chatting up the whole crowd here. Christopher Frame, Harkins Aquatics. No Harkins today. I hadn't seen him in chat. Jeremy Altman, Kent, oh God, pronunciation. Scipione. Scipione? Sorry, Kent. Elaine Martinassi, Alan Jackson, Chuck Admire, Don Bowman, Ernie Wallace, Genro, Greg Zimmerman, Keith Singer, Kyle Jameson. Hey, what's up, Kyle? Lisa Clow, Lori Ward, Puddle Aquatics, Rebecca Hall, Reef Infidel, Sana Nomine, Scotty D, Skylar Korn, Sue Hemmons, The Classroom Reef, Thomas Tarrant, Tim Garner, Trevor Joseph Overbeck. And on the YouTube member side, Joseph Posada, Keith Holland, Jacob Reikerson, Sarah Edwards, Justin Harden, Jeremy Place, 328 Reef, and 2 Please Coral Reefs. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I'll close out of those. Okay. Yeah. So what do you guys have going on this weekend? Oh, I think I mentioned this earlier in this live stream, but we moved some tanks yesterday. We took delivery of 2 500-gallon aquariums. We are still waiting for the remaining 3 to fully build out that system, and who knows how long that's going to take to get up and running, because actually just getting the aquariums is the easy part. The hard part is plumbing it all together. It's going to be plumbing it into the sump, which has to be custom fabricated and all this stuff. So I'm just hoping like first quarter of 2022 we'll actually get that system up and running, because it's going to be super, super cool once we get that up, because I think that's going to be like, we've had some cool systems up to this point, but this system might be the, as far as like the business goes, the most important one, because this is the one where we're going to be doing a lot of our shows out of. It's going to be the one that we're going to be doing most of the shipping out of long term. It's also going from system to system to system. I mean, we've had the greenhouse for well over 10 years, and we've learned so many lessons from that to bring over in constructing these systems. And then even in constructing these systems, like starting, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I don't even remember, we've learned even more lessons to take into this system. So it's this compounding like lessons learned to get to this point. So I'm like, again, just super excited about like putting all of that together, because it'll be like a nice little project. And again, it's going to be so highly functional. There's like, this system is like for us and for how we work. Not that the other ones weren't, but this is going to be like the high traffic one. So very excited about that. When will it all happen? Yikes, I don't know. It's so difficult to find not just the labor. Like before, I was like, yeah, it's hard to schedule people, like the professional, like, plumbing, electricians, and all that. But what's really difficult now is even just getting stuff. Like, actually, this is probably a good time. Like, what number are we at now? Because I'm about to go on a rant. 196. Okay, I've got plenty of time. So there are shortages that you guys probably have no idea of that pertains to this hobby. So there was like random stuff, like electricians were having trouble sourcing like breaker switches for like an electrical panel. That was weird. I know that for a while there's a plastics shortage, and so the price to do a lot of like the plumbing stuff was like really high. The cost of like our type 1 PVC sheets that go underneath the tanks were super high. The cost of the foam layer that goes on top of the sheet of type 1 PVC went from, like, I think it went from $400 and something a roll to like $700 something a roll. That was fun. I know that the cost of like bulkheads, geez, the cost of like a Spears 1.5-inch bulkhead, I think is $100, guys. And I need 35 of them, so I'm not going to be able to use Spears. Let's see. Our frozen food source. So you guys may or may not know, but there is there's like this backup of ships in like Long Beach and in some other place on the West Coast to get containers from overseas to the ports, right? Well, it turns out that seafood on those ships goes bad if it's delayed for weeks. So there was this shortage of like frozen food for the reef aquarium hobby. They're just huge shortage, right? But on top of that shortage, there's a shortage of dry ice. So our supplier of frozen food is like, they couldn't even get all the frozen food that we wanted. Like, for example, like full-size pieces of krill, none available. So we have to like get mysis and the small Pacific plankton, which is kind of krill, but it's like a lot smaller, stuff like that. But because of the dry ice shortage, they're only able to ship out once every 3 weeks. Previously, they would ship out like multiple times every week, but because of dry ice, they had to like pick and choose specific days that they would even get the dry ice to ship out. It's crazy sauce out there. So yeah, as I'm thinking, yeah, it'll be so neat once we like get all this stuff. And and I was talking like to the ecotech guys, but that chip shortage that was preventing, like Teslas and stuff like that needed chips and computers and stuff. Well, every single device in the ecotech lineup requires chips. Like every single one of them does. So they had to scramble to do their fulfillment too. So again, going back to the whole, I'm super excited about getting this next system up and running. When it happens, no idea at all. So we shall see. I guess I'm not in a huge hurry. Get that going for me. Daniel Jolly, love this stuff. Thanks for the channels. Awesome. Glad you like it. Thanks for coming. Let's see. Industrial breakers are less time right now. Long lead time. Yeah. We were very lucky getting our generator. There's people that are probably still waiting for their generators. We got lucky because they simply had a giant 80 kilowatt 3-phase generator. They just had one from like pre-COVID. They were like, oh yeah, we can totally just sell you this one that we just happen to have. But if you wanted us to build you one, 9 months, right? But I just got lucky because like the exact one I needed, they had. And there wasn't a huge demand in 80 kilowatt units, I guess. Love your videos. Thanks from Germany. Thank you. I guess somebody was responding to one of the polls. Maybe that was the Acropora one. Yeah, I had no idea about frozen food or dry ice. Yeah. I had heard that it was going to be a thing. And not that I didn't believe it. I did believe it, but then when I experienced it, it was like, this sucks. Because we stay on top of this because we make our own seafood here. And so like when we're like getting to the point where it's like, you know what, we have like 2 weeks left. We should probably place an order. And when I'm placing this order, we're like, we hope to be able to ship sometime before New Year's. I'm like, it's November. What do you mean you hope to ship before New Year's? Like, I need some frozen food now, dude. Now. Get this going. Also previously, what did we have a shortage of that was like, we had to just, when it comes, was styrofoam boxes for shipping. So we order pallets of this stuff at a time. And there was like this, the guy was telling me, it's like, hey, look, as fast as these things are coming off of the manufacturing plant is when these orders are getting fulfilled. Like it is as soon as they get physically made, they get sent. And you're way back in line. And I'm like, okay, cool. It was so bad that I would have like literally multiple pallet loads of outstanding orders. of, so for example, I would order like, let's say 500 boxes, okay? And that'd be coming on like 4 pallets or something. 4 skids, 5 skids, I don't even know. And I know that like, oh, okay, so we're expecting that to show up next week. We need to place another order for another 500, even though we haven't even received the first 500 that we have, just to like keep things moving. Yeah, it's like, yeah, we just need to get our spots in line now that we know that it's going to be pushed off for like X number of whatever. Yeah, so fun. Charitas, another German that regrets we cannot order, lol. Thanks for all your videos, all your good advice though. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. I was talking to one company and they were asking like, have you ever been to Interzoo in Germany? I'm like, no, I would really like to go to Interzoo. And they're like, you know what? So Interzoo, I guess, is every other year. And it's not just for the aquatics industry, it's also for like the pet trade in general. And I'm like, cool, I would love to hang out in the cat section for like, a whole day or something, right? So I have no problem hanging out at like this huge mega conference in Germany. And also I want to meet the dude at Biz. He's German. I believe his name is Alex. And I was supposed to meet him like maybe like few years ago, but he didn't attend that specific conference. But anyway, one of these days, I would like to meet Alex because I really like Biz pumps. All right, I'm just gonna gonna fanboy out. So all those people that come up to me to fanboy out to when they meet me, is I'm gonna be like that with this guy because I like his product. Anyway, so I wanna go to Germany for that, and then on the way back, swing through London and talk to some folks there. So like one day when like international travel becomes less of a headache, I would like to try to do something like that. Greg Reef Boy. Hi, Than. Like those new tanks you recently just received, how many more are you expecting? So that was the first 2 of 5. So I'm expecting 3 more plus a custom sump. And then we're probably going to be done for a little good bit on like tank development. Because that'll like to do that whole thing, that'll pretty much like gobble up most of 2022, I'm guessing. Like hopefully the tanks will be like fully plumbed and operational like first quarter, fingers crossed, wishful thinking. 2022 first quarter would be great to be able to do that. But then we still have like a lot of like growing that we can still do into our other existing systems downstairs. Yeah. Good times. And again, there's endless projects here, endless. So I'm starting to put together like a little weekend team that we can just like not do regular stuff, but just do these project things. Because during the week, we've been, thankfully, not complaining, we've been doing well. So, but that keeps us having to run the business. We can't spend a lot of time on these like development projects. So I had to create like a part-time group of guys that we can just bang out these other projects and not worry about like, oh, we need to do packing, we need to do communications, we need to do blah 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 blah. It's just like, let's just do some construction-y type things. So it's been awesome. Oh, also totally random, but I got a lot more concrete stuff done outside. This is so like boring and like incredibly domestic, but it does play into the advancement of the business. But I had a lot of concrete work done outside, and part of that was expanding our driveway by a whole 8 feet. So now we can have larger trucks coming up the driveway easier. And so when the aquariums came, I'm like, I have zero stress about this, because I know that it would be really easy for a trailer to pull into a driveway this wide now. Like, I got zero stress. And sure enough, it was really easy to unload those tanks. Let's see. Bring a big suitcase full of stuff to Germany. Yes, because I want to go to jail. No. B, I'll join you if you want to travel, buddy. We can. I'm sure we can work something out, B. I'm sure we can work something out. Let's see. Daniel Monteiro from Brazil. What is up? I've never been to Brazil. My parents have, but I have not. Greetings from Austria. What is up, Unprintable? Too bad you don't ship around the world. It's a thing. Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of difficult. Rob Pinkman, do you run controllers on your systems? Kinda. So we have Neptune, we have GHL. We do not have Hydros. When it comes to automation, we mainly do it for monitoring, specifically temperature. For us, automation has been less great at the commercial scale versus what one would see on their home system. I think that, and I was using like the Roomba example. Like when you have like one or two Roombas at home, it's so great. It makes you not have to do any vacuuming. It's wonderful. But in a giant warehouse where you need 10 Roombas, suddenly the maintenance on 10 robots is now as much as you just doing the floor yourself or having an employee do it for a half hour each day. Like now for that same employee to service 10 robots, it's the same amount of time. And who knows what, it gobbled up and scratched your floor with, who knows, right? That's kind of the same sort of thing once you have like 10 Neptunes or 10 GHLs. At some point, they get thrown off of calibration to the point where it's like, I can't trust these numbers. And I'm a little bit too busy to recalibrate right now anyway. I don't really want to mess with this right now, or there's like a software update, it's taking forever. I'm just not going to do it. And so like the automation, while on paper would make a ton of sense, in practice for us, it hasn't hit its stride yet. We're just like too busy and too distracted. And it also gets to the point where we're not even looking at it. So all this stuff is even monitoring and we're not even paying attention. So not great. But home hobbyists, go crazy. You do you. It works. Oh, yeah. Isherwood Williams. I recently purchased a new tank and I am shocked at the price of glass. Have you noticed a change in larger sizes? Bro, for a moment, I think I had purchased all the 3/4 inch glass in the country. Like all of it. Because like parts of my tank had to be re-engineered in a different material because they were not able to find any 3/4 inch glass in spec for my project. So we had to like do like double laminated this and that, or upgrade to 1 inch, or like there's like different things, right? But there was no sheet of that size of 3/4, period. Not only that, but like our tank manufacturer was like frantic, like, oh my gosh, I have to like do your tanks immediately. We weren't planning on doing your tanks immediately, but we have to do them immediately because I quoted you X, and the glass supplier basically said you need to place your orders right this second for our existing inventory, because once you get out of our existing inventory, the next shipment of glass is going to be double in price. And I'm not going to divulge exactly how much I spent, but let's just say my glass bill for these aquariums was 5 figures, okay? So imagine doubling up on some mystery 5-figure number. That's what we're talking about. So a lot of glass tank manufacturers are not even building their larger tanks right now. And not talking about custom, but like big box type companies that you may have heard of, right? That do marketing. From what I understand, like they're bigger lines. They're just like, nope, unavailable, sold out, nope. And it's simply because there is a glass shortage. There's a paper shortage, and I didn't really know that, but we use packing paper when it comes to doing all that stuff. And when we order packing paper, we're like we've noticed like this isn't our regular packing paper. I don't know what this is, but this is trash. And it's because these companies can't even source the good paper anymore. It's like they just have to find something that they can put into a roll and send it out there for their customers. So like Uline is like sending us some garbage packing paper now compared to what we used to be using from Uline. Jeremy Davis, looking forward to seeing updates from your new setups and Becca's new build. Coming soon. Becca's a little bit further along in her stuff than I am in mine, but I have a good deal more to talk about, and I think that in this maybe like next coming 2 weeks before I go on vacation, I'll definitely give some good updates. Now, everybody knows we march super slowly, super duper slowly on some of these things. But no, there's definitely some things worth mentioning, and we'll get caught up before I go on hiatus. Okay, so we're on item number 230. We are coming to the very end. So guys, thank you all so much for coming and hanging out. I mean, I'm not saying goodbye just yet. So, but I do want to say thank you for hanging out. It has been so long since we've actually done one of these live shows. So yeah, I kind of missed it. And clearly my throat is not used to talking for 2+ hours straight. Because it's like, I could use some tea and honey and a little bit of lemon, thanks, sort of thing right now. Like, it's a good thing I'm just going to be alone with the cats tonight and just hanging out watching basketball. By the way, how about them Cleveland Cavaliers? You know what? I'm having a pretty good sports season. Like, my Cavaliers are good. Michigan finally beat Ohio State. Like, the sense of relief I felt from that, unbelievable. Like, I'm genuinely shocked that they were able to pull it off. And the Browns suck, but whatever. But no, I will take good Michigan and good Cleveland Cavaliers any day. Like, that is my jam. So they are playing tonight. They're playing, I think, Sacramento this evening. That'll be fun. This is the sort of stuff I look forward to. It's like the most domestic, least glamorous things. Yeah, so like earlier in the stream, we're talking about these black tie events and stuff like that. No. I get excited about staying home, watching a basketball game on the computer, and I'm getting a tractor. And this is like literally like the highlight of my self-indulgent purchasing. It's like, I'm gonna get a new tractor. I'm so excited. I'm getting a Ventrac for all you tractor people that know what that is. But yeah, that's what I got going on. So hopefully y'all's weekend is going well, and hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. I'm sure that like okay, so also for the folks that are unfamiliar with like all the purchasing and stuff, you can purchase these things on tidalgardens.com. We generally take this sales category down at about like Wednesday. So even if like you miss some of like the stuff from earlier today, and you wanted to come back and shop a little bit later, you have some time to work with. We are not in a huge hurry to like yank all this stuff off the website as fast as possible. So right around Wednesday is probably when we'll start taking it all down. If you needed a specific day, you can always email us, and we'll work out, whatever like weirdness that happened with shipping. Sometimes people accidentally pay for shipping twice. We'll take care of all of that. But yeah, we'll start to get you guys on the calendar starting like, Monday-ish, and maybe even Sunday-ish. We'll see where we end up. But yeah, if you need a specific day, feel free to email us. And we will try to work with you on that, because we also have to check temperatures and stuff. Because we check temperature here, we check temperature at your location, and we check some of the intermediary UPS hubs. So the main one for like overnight is like in Louisville, Kentucky. So we check on the weather there, make sure that there's no like crazy weather delays or like some flash freezing. It always gets a little bit squirrely, come wintertime. And we'll see. Speaking of winter, like the worst part of winter is like the first onset of snow, because it's like here in Ohio, there's like this very not busy, but it's a very popular highway from here to Cleveland, 77 north or south. And I just know like the very first time it snows, everybody had forgotten how to drive in the snow. It's like everybody's been in LA this whole time or something like that. And sure enough, the first time it snows, every 10 minutes somebody's spinning off and going into like a ditch. And it's like, you dummies. And I was like, how long have you lived here? You know this. Every single freaking winter, as soon as it snows, everybody I saw like a truck, like a four-wheel, like a 4x4, right? He's just coming down the exit ramp. He didn't make it 10 feet onto the highway before he spun out. Like, I'm just watching him like merge onto the highway and bye, doing his little 360s. They all forget. But they're about to learn. So anyway, that does impact our shipping mindset. It's like, the very first, days of like heavy snowfall, that UPS truck might be like not making it to the airport. So yeah, we kind of like, it's not that I don't trust you, but I'm just gonna like watch out for myself here real quick. I'm gonna watch out for your packages. Okay, Rob Pinkman, let's see a video of the new tractor. Oh my gosh, I would love to. I would love to. It's not here yet. I'm on the waiting list. It should be here any day. But it is a big red ugly tractor called it's called a Ventrac, and it is like, it's very commercial. It's made in Ohio here. It is the ugliest tractor, and I love it. I've noticed all the basketball metaphors. I was actually wondering who your favorite teams. Yeah, I love the Cavaliers. That's my thing. Good or bad, they're a lot easier to watch when they're good, obviously. But that's always been my team. Acropora, the Jerry West of corals. Yeah. Oh, Rob Pinkman, I only have TG stuff in my display tank and my refugium. Oh, thank you. Somebody was joking. It's like, I tried a different vendor. I will never cheat on Tidal Gardens again. I thought that was very cute. And generally speaking, we actually have a pretty positive relationship with all the other vendors. It's a small, tight knit community. Let's just say, even on the industry side. So it's like, yeah, it's like I don't say bad stuff about anybody, because usually they're actually quite nice people, and it's like we get treated like really well, at these places, in and amongst that crowd. So anyway, guys, that is it. You guys made it all the way through, right? So that is all for the December show. Like I said, the corals will stay available till about Wednesday, and I hope y'all enjoy your weekend. Okay, I'm going to be logging off here if I even remember how to do this. It's been so long, right? Okay. See you guys.